A few weeks ago, I got up early to play pickleball in the morning. If you don't know what pickleball is, then maybe just do a quick search on pickleball. I forget if I've told you about pickleball before, but it's kind of a cross between tennis and ping pong, so kind of in the middle. Anyway, I got up early morning. It was still dark out. It was about 10 degrees outside when we were walking to the indoor place where we were going to be playing pickleball. And as we were walking into the door, one of the guys that was playing pickleball with me there, he said, "Does that cat have a Doritos bag on its head?" And I turned around, and walking towards us, behind us from the outside, was a tiny little kitten that, sure enough, had like one of those little Doritos bags completely covering its head. It's like it had gotten hungry out in the cold, and it found a Doritos bag that had some crumbs in it, and it put its head in there, obviously, and it got stuck. It was totally, completely, very, very tight on it. Like it was the perfect size for a hat that was going to suffocate this cat. I don't know how long this cat had had this Doritos bag on its head, but when it heard our voices, it came walking towards us, even though it couldn't see us. When it came walking towards us because I think it was hoping that somebody would help it by getting the Doritos bag off of its head. And so it came towards us, it stopped right at our feet, reached down, pulled the bag off the head, and the cat looked at us and then went running away. I think very happy to be set free. Why am I telling you that story? Other than I just want you to know that I play pickleball, and sometimes I'm with people who rescue cats that have Doritos bags on their heads. Because in Psalm 25, David says this. He says, "My eyes are ever on the Lord, for only he will release my feet from the snare." That little cat's, his eyes weren't on us. The Doritos bag stopped it, but his attention was on our voices, hoping that the people who had those voices were going to be able to release him from something that had trapped him. And King David is reminding us that this is an important skill in the Christian life, to keep our eyes focused on the Lord, because we find ourselves in any number of traps. We find ourselves entrapped by the temptations of Satan, by the weakness of our sinful flesh, the times that we give in, by the enemies of our faith in this world, sometimes very close to us. We find ourselves in troubles, just of any kind of general trouble, and some that are very overwhelming and difficult, like sickness and death, and walking through that dark valley. And so David reminds us of a very necessary and useful skill in the life of the Christian, and that is keeping our eyes focused on our God. And why? Well, just think about pretty much any time we see Jesus interacting with somebody. We see him responding to those who cried for help. We see him healing those who were sick. We see him weeping with Mary and Martha at the grave. We see him walking toward a cross. We see him stumbling under the weight of that cross because he's already so weak, but he's determined to get there. We see him not moving his hands and fighting back when they pound the nails in. We see him not complaining at all when they elevate that cross so that everyone can see him. We see him turn to the thief hanging next to him and promise paradise to him that day. We see him looking out at the people who put him there and saying, "Father, forgive them." We see him dying. We see him dead after he cried out, "It is finished." The sacrifice was made. The payment was put down. And then we see him standing outside an empty tomb on Sunday morning as proof that the payment was accepted. We see Jesus standing with his disciples just before he ascends into heaven, sometime before he ascends, saying, "I'll always be with you, even if you can't see me with your eyes. I'm always with you to the very end." And to the very end of what? The very end of everything. very end of anything. The very end of your earthly existence or this world's existence, which would happen also to be the very beginning of the time when we will see Jesus with our own eyes. And we will be with him in absolute perfection. And before all of that, where do we see Jesus? We see him in a manger. Even though he's a tiny, fragile, vulnerable little baby, he knows full well what he's doing. He's giving us something wonderful to remember every time we look at him, every time we fix our eyes on him. And that wonderful thing that we get to remember every time we do is this: your God always has his eyes fixed on you. Your God loves you. Your God sees you. Your God will save you. In the middle of all of your troubles and entrapments, fix your eyes on him. He'll be there for you. Rest well tonight.